So this story is called The Drink That Gives You a Pat on the Back. Did you see that? Said Sarah, returning to the living room. I mean, how I opened the door just enough so I could comfortably enter without wasting energy pushing it any further than I needed to. Ergonomic or what? Fliss watched aghast as Sarah strode confidently to the armchair opposite her own and sat down. This was getting out of hand. She half expected another commentary from Sarah regarding the act of seating herself, how elegantly she'd done it, how she harmonised with gravity. Anything was possible. But instead she said, "You were going to ask me something. Whatever it is, Fliss, I can help, no problem." Good, Fliss beamed. How many bottles have you drunk today? Oh no, you mustn't worry about that. Do you know, it feels like for the first time in my life, I know exactly what I'm doing. 1 bottle, 5 bottles, what does it matter? 5 bottles? Possibly, might have lost count. In Fliss' stomach, there was a deepening void. The Sarah she'd known and loved for so many years was gone. And this was the person who'd replaced her. Worse still, Fliss was responsible. Just a few weeks ago, she'd gone to visit Sarah at her home. She'd heard nothing from her for some time. Calls and texts had been going unanswered, an old pattern. So Fliss was not surprised to find her still in her dressing gown and immersed in daytime TV. There's a world out there, you know. So there is. But does it need me? I get worried when I don't hear from you. I'm sorry, Fliss. It's just been really bad lately, you know. That old voice in my head. Whatever you do, you'll screw up somehow. Better not to try. And I know, you've heard all this before. Sarah, why? Why do you always end up thinking that it's all going to go wrong? Experience. Sarah gave her a wan smile. Because everything I do turns out to be rubbish. I keep on making the same old mess of things time and time again. There was, unfortunately, some truth in that statement. Sarah had had a problem with self-esteem ever since Fliss had first known her. Mostly it stayed in some sort of perspective, but in the last 6 months, she'd lost both a good job and a steady boyfriend. She was locked into a self-perpetuating and negative loop again. This time, however, Fliss thought she had something new to offer. Sarah, I don't suppose you've ever heard of Accolade? What? It's a drink, like an energy drink, but apparently it changes your feelings. People say it makes you feel sort of better about yourself. She explained how she'd read about it in a magazine and looked it up on the internet where no one seemed to have a bad word to say about it. Sarah was slow to comprehend. A drink? Once she grasped it, she told Fliss she was very sorry, but she found the idea quite repellent. She was facing the truth about herself. The idea that her feelings could be changed merely by taking a drink suggested that they could not be real. Well, yes, thought Fliss, but held her tongue. She knew Sarah. It was enough for now just to lodge the idea. Result. When next they met at Costa's, it was obvious. Sarah had taken care with her clothing, been to the hairdressers, and best of all, had a broad smile across her face. It works! Accolade! I got some, and it really works. Over the next half hour, Fliss learned that Sarah was looking for a new job. She'd undersold herself all her working life and would be aiming considerably higher this time. At which point, with no hint of irony, she added, because I'm worth it. Sarah's gratitude to Fliss for suggesting Accolade was profuse. Its manufacturers were a benevolent lot, apparently. They even put a helpline number on the packaging. You could call them for advice if Accolade did not seem to be working as you'd hoped. That was what had finally persuaded her to try it. They cared. So far, so good. At their parting hug, Sarah said, "Do you think I'm good at hugging?" "Well, I guess so." "Good. I think so too. I'm warm and empathetic, aren't I?" At that point, ever so delicately, the void in Fliss's stomach had made its first appearance. By now, it was cavernous. She really should have read up a lot more about that stuff before making her impulsive recommendation to someone as vulnerable as Sarah. "So, I've just pulled off the most perfect deal as far as supply is concerned." Fliss realised she'd stopped listening to Sarah, as she so often did during the extended good reviews her friend now habitually gave herself. Supply of what? Sarah looked at her laughing. "Oh, Fliss, you look like you've lost the plot. I'm surprised. I'm a very clear speaker, you know. It was Accolade I was talking about. Look, here, in my bag. I've bought you a 6-pack to try, because I really think you should." It surprised Fliss how small the plastic bottles were. The slogan across the cardboard holder read, "The drink that gives you a pat on the back." She smiled. "That's very kind of you. I'll try some later." As she took them from Sarah, she noticed a faint look of disapproval on her friend's face. With that postponement, it seemed she'd failed some sort of test. It came as a relief when Sarah said it was time for her to go. "I slip on a coat rather rhythmically, don't you think?" Alone, Fliss sank back into the armchair, clutching her head. Out of hand, all her own fault. Well, was it? Wouldn't Sarah have come across Accolade one way or another? And what was it with the stuff that it had such an effect? Did it change everyone like it had Sarah? Did it wear off if you stopped drinking it? No wonder they had a helpline. The number was on the pack Sarah had left. Fliss grabbed her phone. "Hello! You've reached the Accolade helpline, and we want you to know we value your call because we believe that Accolade is consumed by only the most discerning customers. And that's you. And you're great, and we're great. So we can help, no problem. Now, how may I help you?" Fliss hit the red button. She'd heard enough. Next day on the bus to work, she overheard a couple as they settled on the seat in front of her. "Did you see how quickly I worked out the right money to give the driver?" said she. "Oh, I did, because I noticed everything about you. Just call me Mr. Observant," said he, laughter. "Oh, I can't get over how witty we are today." Heads were proliferating. Fliss avoided Sarah for some time, which was not difficult given the state of self-absorption with which Sarah now contemplated her own radiance. She missed the old Sarah. Her friend might have been hesitant, forever undermining her own self-confidence, but she was thoughtful, loving and loyal, and not without her own strengths. She'd been a well of support when Fliss lost her father to cancer. The cavern in Fliss' stomach began to feel unstable, like it would collapse in on itself with terrible consequences. When depressed, as she now felt she was, it had been her habit to watch a lot of TV, but she no longer could. Like all the media, TV was obviously riddled with ackheads. You only had to watch the chat shows for a start. Those people must have known about the stuff long before she ever did. It was all a morass of feel-good superficiality, best ignored, except that she'd managed to tilt one of her best friends right into it. Why had she not thought it through more carefully before she blurted? From what had happened, she could now see that Sarah's initial objection to accolade was not without reason. It took human emotion into the shallows and left it there, stranded. Something had to be done, at least as far as Sarah was concerned. Uneurythmically, she put on her coat and headed over to her friends. Fliss! Oh, it's been ages. I've been meaning to get in touch, but the thing is, I keep getting sidetracked by all these great ideas, and they always seem to come about 10 o'clock in the morning for some reason. Anyway, I get them, and of course, I've got to make a reality out of them. I mean, isn't that fantastic? Every day I'm sort of developing a new dimension. Sarah was still looking good, though Fliss couldn't help thinking the cheap, fashionable clothes she was now wearing, along with the unusual attention she'd given to makeup, made her look just a touch tarty. Tell me more. What are these great ideas? Oh, let me think. Yes, the other day I thought I should go out for a walk. I mean, isn't that brilliant, Fliss? Exercise, fresh air, a chance to stop and look at things that you normally just whiz past. It's just an amazingly good thing to do, and I did it. Sarah, Fliss sighed wearily. That's a good idea, I'll grant you, but it's not a great one. Lots of people go for walks. Great ideas tend to be things that no one has ever thought of before. What are you trying to say? I think you should try stopping the accolade for a bit. I think you need to get back in touch with who you really are, love. Maybe just have a bottle now and then when you need a bit of a boost, eh? But it was you that recommended it. I don't understand. Why are you telling me to stop? The change in Sarah was unsettling and abrupt. A soap bubble bursting. Fliss wanted to take her into her arms like she'd done so easily so many a time. But Sarah's body language was clear. Keep your distance. I just don't think it's really doing you any good. You didn't say it would do me good. You said it would make me feel better about myself. And it has. I don't know why you want me to stop feeling better about myself. I don't want you to stop feeling better about yourself, Sarah. I'm having a great idea right now, Fliss. I think you should go. You're not my friend anymore. You're just bringing me down. Please, go. Trudging home along bleak city streets, the thoughts were inescapable. What an utter mess she'd made of that. She wasn't quite the good with people person she'd always prided herself she was. She wasn't quite so good at a lot of things. That was the reason for the cavern in her stomach collapsing tumultuously as it was within her now. It was not just Sarah. It was her own sense of pitiful failure. Confidence. What a house of cards that was. Reaching home, Fliss made straight for the kitchen, seeking comfort in coffee. The 6-pack of accolades still lay on the counter where she'd put it after Sarah had presented it. She switched on the kettle and stared at the packaging, the drink that gives you a pat on the back. Was this the way of the world now? Happy folk, backs patted. What was the point in holding out against it? She sipped her coffee. The comfort wasn't sufficient. Maybe she could do with that pat on the back herself. She pulled a bottle from the cardboard holder and stared at it with continuing distaste. Then, with no more hesitation, she unscrewed the top and raised raised it to her lips.